Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alejandro Kilpatrick. I'm with the UN Climate Change Secretariat. Welcome to the closing of the thematic tracks and the closing ceremony of MENA Climate Week 2023. Let me first thank the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for providing a platform for the thematic track discussions. I must also thank our global partners, the World Bank, United Nations Environment Programme, and the United Nations Development Programme, for working with us on the design and delivery of these thematic tracks. I also want to thank all our partners in the region for your support. Your collaboration is very much appreciated. This session is comprised of the closing of the thematic tracks and also the closing ceremony of the MENA Climate Week. First, my colleague Lindita Shaferi Salihu and I will provide you with a brief overview of what was discussed here at MENA Climate Week in each of the 4 thematic tracks, with a focus on the key takeaways for the region, priority actions, and solutions to be considered as contributions to the global stocktake. We will then move to the formal closing ceremony, which will feature perspectives from our partners and closing remarks by UN Climate Change and the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Thank you for joining us, and let's now explore the thematic track discussions. For track 1 and 2, I would like to invite Ms. Lindita Shaferi Salihu, Business Engagement Lead with UNFCCC, to the podium.
Thank you, Alejandro, and thank you to all who engaged throughout the MENA Climate Week 2023, and in particular those who provided input to the thematic track discussions. With focus on energy and industry, track 1 showcased opportunities and discussed challenges related to the energy transition in the region. Sessions were well attended and focused on an integrated systemic transition to clean energy anchored in justice, inclusivity, and sustainability. Participants stressed the need to transition in line with NDCs. Tailoring energy transition pathways to national contexts and regional collaborations were mentioned as essential. Economic diversification can ensure resilience to socio-economic impacts. Water scarcity, land degradation, and social inequalities were identified as barriers to meeting NDC targets. Finance is crucial, with $570 billion needed by 2030. Quality and quantity of climate finance, public-private partnerships, blended finance, and robust reporting systems were also discussed. Significant renewable energy potential and increased energy efficiency can help, including scale-up of carbon capture, utilization and storage, and direct air capture technologies to address greenhouse gas emissions. Some countries are already making progress in sectors such as building. Just energy transition opens opportunities for poverty eradication, economic diversification, energy access, youth empowerment, and more. Access to clean, reliable energy and clean cooking are crucial for a just energy transition. MENA region is making strides in renewable energy, but progress differs by country. Scaling through policies, institutional capacities, and partnerships is needed. Promoting public-private collaborations and stakeholder action is crucial. Market mechanisms and climate finance can mobilize the private sector for this transformation. Engaging the youth is also essential. Participants identified examples like youth councils as innovation platforms. There is a need to build further on such examples. It was discussed that MENA region has the potential to be the global leader in carbon capture, utilization, and storage. CO2 transport and storage infrastructure, including pipeline networks, knowledge to manage subsurface reservoirs, and a path for hard-to-abate industries such as cement, chemicals, and steel make CCUS attractive in the region. It was recognized that additional efforts to innovate in the processes to capture CO2 would be needed to ensure durable reservoirs. Mature and stable regulatory framework, fiscal and financial incentives, aided by market mechanisms and climate finance, can scale technology and lower costs, which will enable transformation. Critical minerals are essential for clean energy, and demand is projected to rise rapidly. The region has a strategic location, abundant resources and infrastructure, opening potential to meet new demand. For this, strong regional collaboration and the exchange of technology and expertise are critical. A circular carbon economy framework supporting emission reductions, creating infrastructure, market access, economic diversification, and job creation were identified as areas to explore. Methane emission reductions are also key. Existing methane mitigation measures and technology can affordably reduce over 75% of methane emissions. Much of that potential is in the region, and 10 MENA countries have joined the Global Methane Pledge, and several companies have joined the Oil and Gas Methane Partnership 2.0. Methane mitigation in the next NDC updates will be important. The session on clean hydrogen underscored the importance of market readiness and international collaboration. The MENA region should prioritize clean hydrogen in climate plans, specifying milestones for scaling up production and adopting technology. Discussions prioritized quality standards to ensure low greenhouse gas footprint for clean hydrogen. Robust discussions were also held in all Track 2 sessions, which focused on cities, urban and rural settlements, infrastructure, and transport. There, we heard the great potential in the MENA region for local contributions to NDCs, NAPs, and long-term climate plans. Best practices exist, and scaling solutions required collaboration across sectors and governments, including the private sector and finance for climate-resilient development. Cities play a major part in climate-resilient infrastructure, transportation, waste management, capacity building, and awareness raising. Large cities tend to attract more financing for climate-resilient projects, and it is crucial to engage smaller cities as well for a full transformation. City budgets often respond to immediate local needs, so it will be important to find ways to directly link day-to-day needs with local climate impacts. Alignment was noted to be key, for example, between local, regional, and national levels, with examples of local action aligned with NDCs. This can help secure finance and long-term investment. Enabling actions build capacity for local governments to act. Understanding financing instruments for different projects or stages of projects was also highlighted. Multi-level activity and partnership building was featured across the Track 2 sessions. There is a willingness to explore engagement across public and private sectors to local climate action. The track also took a deep dive into the building construction value chain and transportation as crucial sectors to achieve decarbonization and resilience. There is no one-size-fits-all answer when addressing future building and transportation demands globally. Proper planning and exchange of best practices is key, as is scaling of best practices such as green procurement for sustainable buildings and transportation infrastructure. Discussion on resilient infrastructure and adaptive capacity highlighted economic barriers that pose a challenge to implementing solutions, with NAPs providing cities with initial guidelines. Waste management through circular economy in cities and human settlements was identified as an important pillar of climate resilience. Some notable initiatives are already underway on circular economy, plastic recycling, and waste diversion. This contributes to economic value and creates opportunities for new jobs here in the MENA region. So this is all about the track 2 overview, and for the next 2 thematic tracks, it is my great pleasure to invite my colleague, Mr. Alejandro Kilpatrick, back to the stage to provide that overview. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lindita. Now we'll provide a quick overview of the discussions in Track 3 and 4. Track 3 focused on addressing vulnerabilities and climate impacts on water, land, food, and ocean systems, emphasizing collaborative and regionally relevant adaptation solutions. One of the region's primary challenges is water security. 14 of the 20 most water-insecure countries in the world are here in this region. Groundwater resources are critical, and discussions underscore the need to improve their management. Traditional methods like rainwater harvesting, combined with improved irrigation, were advocated. Water recycling and reuse techniques were highlighted, with awareness and policy support deemed essential to encourage adoption. Desalination, although critical, faces energy-related barriers. The interconnectedness of water and food security was emphasized, highlighting the need for a holistic approach to ensure balanced water use across domestic, agricultural, and industrial sectors. There is no food security without water security. This nexus was also identified as a potential trigger of conflicts, especially in the context of shared resources. Increased heat and salinization of land threaten agricultural productions. Efforts such as innovative drought-resistant crop varieties and precision irrigation were showcased. On oceans, innovative initiatives were mentioned, such as the mapping of the Arabian Sea to monitor biodiversity and public-private partnerships like the Red Sea Global Project, which promotes tourism while safeguarding biodiversity preservation. Contextualizing global assessment and predictions were emphasized to generate data for diagnostics and evidence to inform actions and policy. Data should also include sub-data such as local knowledge, and initiatives like RICAR and the Regional Sand and Dust Storms Warning Advisory and Assessment Center are already being used for planning and response. Adaptation was identified as a top priority for the region, with a critical need to scale up finance for adaptation to match mitigation funding. Discussions encourage more focus on local priorities and high-quality project proposals. A better understanding of project adaptation component is needed by investors, and diversified finance instruments can de-risk projects. Innovation, including in management and entrepreneurship, were identifying as crucial and can engage youth. Looking at the whole supply chain was discussed to find opportunities for further efficiencies rather than additional investments. The need for strategies to enhance human and institutional capacity, building from the existing ones, and taking into account local realities and needs was seen as a crucial element to implement actions. Initiatives like Tadamont Program and Takaful Insurance, which build on local practices, were showcased. For collaborative projects, coordination across sectors was identified as essential. Moving on to Track 4, which focus on economies, societies, livelihoods, and health. During this track, a comprehensive overview of achievements in the MENA region highlighted substantial progress being made. Achievements underscore the significance of contextual solutions and showcase projects aligned with the core principles of the circular carbon economy. Discussions acknowledge progress made by countries as regards integrating climate change into education, social inclusive NDCs, whilst conducting also climate health assessments and implementing inclusive health policies and systems. Throughout the sessions, prevalent challenges in the MENA region were identified. Issues such as lost productivity due to extreme heat and accessing adequate funds for climate investment create barriers for the deployment of innovative climate solutions and whole-of-society approaches. More could be done to expand discussions on climate-related mobility, strengthen participation in policy-making processes, improve regulatory frameworks, and standardize policies. Amidst these challenges, promising solutions and forward-thinking strategies were proposed. The need for intensified research emerged as a priority, especially in the realm of homegrown science, enabling accurate predictions of local impacts like saltwater intrusion and coral bleaching events. Technology research was highlighted, particularly in promoting the transition from a linear to a circular economy, emphasizing the importance of enhancing incentive and attractiveness for investments, particularly in research and development of technologies such as carbon capture, use, utilization, and storage. The track emphasized the need for solutions tailored to the MENA region context. Culturally informed, sustainable, and equitable development can enhance livelihoods in the face of extreme heat. Education, cultural awareness, teacher training, and fostering adaptability were identified as crucial components in addressing climate change effectively. The promotion of nature-based solutions was emphasized as a direct approach to advancing the circular carbon economy. There was a strong call to broaden the spectrum of solutions in NDCs, including carbon abatement capacity targets, use of biofuels, waste to energy, with hybrid bamboo as a promising resource of circular economy. Active civil society engagement in developing and implementing NDCs requires understanding of complex social structures across the MENA region. The need for effective community engagement was emphasized through tailored approaches, institutionalized platforms, and inclusive opportunities for engagement between community stakeholders, governments, and non-party stakeholders. Finally, Track 4 stressed the importance of early action and anticipatory approaches to heat waves, implementing heat health action planning, deepening the research efforts on heat stress to keep the legislation relevant and up-to-date, as well as proactive measures in food systems were identified as critical strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the close of these thematic track discussions here at MENA Climate Week 2023. In the coming weeks, we will compile more detailed outputs from these tracks in a report that will be available online. This report will also be presented to the COP28 presidency as an input to inform the global stocktake and steer climate action in the context of COP28. Now is our moment to turn commitment into action, and I think we have seen the great potential for ambitious action over the last 4 days here in the MENA region. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to invite partners to the stage and introduce Mr. James Grabert, Director of the Mitigation Division at the UN Climate Change Secretariat, to begin the closing ceremony.
Thank you, Alejandro, and welcome everybody to the closing ceremony of our MENA Climate Week. To close this event, we will hear from our global regional Climate Week partners and our gracious host, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I will also make some brief remarks. But first, let me invite Kishan Kode, Regional Team Leader for Environment at UNDP Regional Hub for the Arab States, to speak.
Thanks, James. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you on behalf of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you, all of the esteemed speakers and participants who joined this year's MENA Climate Week. In particular, all the great young volunteers that made this event a success day in and day out. The MENA Climate Week has provided significant opportunities for many actors to discuss the important issues that we're facing across the region and around the world. From water and food security and the energy transition to adaptation and long-term climate resilient development pathways. We heard that adaptation and building climate resilience is a key issue for all countries across the MENA region. Discussions are emphasizing the regional and transboundary approaches that are necessary to adapt to the impacts of climate change. This is a positive step, and we know all too well that climate change risks and vulnerabilities don't respect national boundaries. In order to address climate risks and vulnerabilities comprehensively, it is clear that multiple actions are required to de-risk climate action. We need to avoid silos, build holistic and comprehensive approaches to understanding and managing risks. For example, we heard that disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation efforts need to be synchronized to provide effective short and long-term solutions. We also heard the importance of strengthening robust data and information systems for the formulation of evidence-based policies and plans, attracting climate adaptation investments, and tracking and reporting on the progress of adaptation actions. Strengthening the science policy interface and capacity building to target policy interventions to ensure that they reach those most in need and make plans actionable and investable was highlighted in many of the sessions. Climate finance is also critical, from ensuring adequate finance for adaptation actions to increased blended finance and low-cost insurance mechanisms to strengthen the livelihoods of communities, not the least in the fragile and vulnerable communities in the conflict settings across the MENA region. Next, in terms of energy, countries in the region have huge potential to accelerate the clean energy transition, as we just heard. All over the region, we see an enhanced adoption of energy efficiency and renewable energy measures, with the Kingdom making rapid transitions on energy efficiency in recent years in particular. We saw, for example, also in more vulnerable countries, in fragile states such as Palestine and Yemen, women are leading the way to ensure access to clean energy by installing solar solutions in communities to build resilience, energy security, and strengthening and rebuilding livelihoods and lives. Finally, it remains clear that meaningful and diverse participation of all actors involved and affected by climate change is key, and those most vulnerable and marginalized must be in the driver's seat. As you would have heard this week, young people constitute more than half of the population across the MENA region, and they are continuing to call for more diverse representation at all levels needed to shape policies and make effective change. Capacity building of youth, empowering them to speak the same language as policymakers, is an important step. So this is a little glimpse of the beauty of regional climate weeks, as they provide a critical opportunity for countries and non-state actors to amplify their voice, priorities, and solutions. Critical insights such as the ones I highlighted just now that must be included in the global stocktake process, which will be concluded at the COP28. To close, the United Nations Development Program extends its thanks to our gracious hosts, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for their hospitality, as well as the UNFCCC and other global and regional partners. We look forward to keeping up the momentum on the road to Dubai in a couple of months, and UNDP stands ready to continue supporting countries in their efforts to transition to a just, climate-resilient world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kishan, for your insights. Next, we'll turn to Ayman Al-Talouni, Senior UNEP Program Manager, heading UNEP engagement in Saudi Arabia. Mr. Al-Talouni, you have the floor.
Thank you all. Thanks, James. I know it's been a long week. I'll try to be as brief as possible. But I must say a statement at the beginning. I am just echoing my colleague Kishan by thanking the government of Saudi Arabia for the excellent organization of this event at all levels, the technical, the logistics, the hospitality, of course, and as well as thanks to the... I must also mention the high political attention. I've seen it from day one, His Royal Highness, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, attention to this event and all the high-level officials from the government and from the countries in the region. It shows the high-level importance of such an event. And with this as well, I would like to commend the UNFCCC Secretariat for the excellent work, and for this year in particular, bringing the MENA Climate Weeks in a close proximity to the COP event. So we hope that the messages resulting from the MENA Climate Weeks will be loud and clear for the policy and negotiator at the next COP 28. Another important message, we talked about youth, and I have seen this in the last few days, the role model example offered by Saudi Arabia of empowering youth, not only in the organization and voluntary work, but also in leading the program and the technical portfolios. The Ministry of Energy have set a very good example. So thank you for doing so and for showing that this is possible and doable. Thanks for everyone. Now, let's go back to the topic and subject matter about the take-home messages. I don't think I can compete with Alejandro and Lindita from the excellent briefing that they have done. So, and I don't want to reinstate the obvious and all the messages, but let me capture some of the messages and take it to a next level. Methane and carbon dioxide mitigation should be working hand in hand if we are hoping to maintain the 1.5 degree reduction. So we need to make sure that we foster and capitalize on existing pledges and initiatives in that regard, like the methane pledge, which most of the oil industries are contributing to it now, to reduce 30% by 2030. The energy transition should be anchored not only around the applications, but should be anchored also around justice, inclusiveness, as well as sustainability of the solution. So this is another topic that we need to make sure that it is already captured well at the next COP in terms of actions and initiatives. We've heard the critical minerals was mentioned today, and I think there is a need to start moving from the scattered approach and fragmented approach in the infrastructure of the supply chain to the integrated approach across the supply chain and the infrastructure as well as the technology transfer requirement. The climate and resilient cities needs and necessitate a different type of actions. The climate finance, the nature finance report of UNEP shows that out of the 150 billion portfolio, global US dollar portfolio for nature investment, only contribute out of it 0.3% for the nature-based solution to the infrastructure and building and sector. So we need to maximize this type of, through a particular different type of approach and initiatives. The energy efficiency programs are advancing very well in the region, and it is very noticeable, especially here in Saudi Arabia over the last few years. However, there are still unflipped stones for some sectors and some applications that need to be taken into consideration. Energy efficiency needs to be handled from the direction of leaving no one behind, individuals, sectors, and different aspects. Last but not least, we heard also about the localization of solutions. And I would like to couple the localization of solution with what Kishan mentioned, the policy science interface. We need to make sure that the local academic institutions and research capacities are well coupled with the policy science interface modalities available in the region, and to foster this connection and interlinkage, because without this, all the solutions will be foreign to the local conditions and the specifics of the countries. Within the context of the message, leaving no one behind, we are living in a region where we are facing a lot of struggles and conflicts in many countries, extreme climatic conditions, specific natural disasters. We have seen this recently. And the typical solutions for stable countries may not fit in these type of conditions for displaced refugees and immigrants situations. So we need to find out different type of solution and approaches to handle this in order not to leave no one behind. Last but not least, I would like to take from the opening statement of His Excellency Minister Sultan Al-Jaber at the beginning of the opening, when he mentioned the cooling pledge. We couldn't be working here across the week without the air conditioning. Some of the low-hanging fruits opportunities is there around the corner, and we have seen that it is possible. Some kind of a binding global commitment in one of the sectors, like the cooling, for example, can create a big difference. For your information, something like the Montreal Protocol for the Protection of Ozone Layer and its Kigali Amendment predict to contribute 0.4 degree reduction out of the 1.5 target only by committing to the Kigali Amendment over the next 50 years. So there is an opportunities that we can tap in, and it's easily, mechanisms are there. We just need to take it to the next level, and hopefully this will be clearly taken into consideration by the negotiator at the next COP. Thank you so much, James, for the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. Our final global partner is the World Bank, and I welcome to the podium Ms. Sonia Sampson, Regional Climate Liaison for MENA at the World Bank. You have the floor.
It's a genuine privilege to be here on behalf of the World Bank to close MENA Climate Week 2023. Whilst it's no longer sounding at all original, I would like to express gratitude to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for being such exceptional hosts. Thank you also to the co-host organisations led by the UNFCCC in collaboration with UNDP, UNEP and the World Bank. This week has truly been astounding on many levels. The energy, the venue, the presentation and rich discussions this week honestly have given me a glimmer of hope. And I say that after years of pessimism working on climate change. There are clear messages from this week that I'm definitely not going to be the first to say, although I may get to be the last. The first is that the world is still not moving fast enough to avert the climate crisis. We all know the urgency, enormity and complexity of the challenge that we face. We know that additional concessional finance is needed to create the enabling environment for the private sector to play their part in scaled-up transformation. We know that MENA is one of the most climate-vulnerable regions and that unchecked climate change will push 132 million people into poverty by 2030. We know that extreme temperature highs well above 50 degrees Celsius could become the norm in MENA, with existing water scarcity exacerbated to devastating effect. What is clear from this week is that we are taking steps in concrete terms to sow seeds that will grow through our collective actions into real change to ensure a livable planet for future generations. This is real climate action. It's still in its infancy, but demonstrably we're at the start of bending the curve. We're seeing that traction in green hydrogen, methane reduction and carbon markets. We know that the clean energy transition is well underway. The conversations that we are having today are markedly progressed from even those of 3 years ago at the start of the pandemic. The calls for real action are being answered, including by many who have been part of this week. And that is where I see the room for hope and inspiration. It's not that where we are is enough. We know that the scale of effort needed is an order of magnitude greater than where we are today. For all of us, whether global, national, local, public, private or community actors, we all need to do more. This week, I've had the honour to be part of the joint World Bank, IFC and Climate Investment Fund delegation, a team of over 30 people who have contributed across the programme, in person, virtually and in support. All of this has been in collaboration with some amazing government representatives, our partner organisations, the private sector, community groups and many more. Our contributions have ranged from critically important topics such as climate finance and carbon markets, to the energy transition, green jobs, green procurement, the circular economy, vibrant cities, sustainable transport, whole of society approaches to investing in human capital. We've also been involved in discussions on green hydrogen, fragility, cooling, gender, reducing methane emissions, increasing resilience and protecting our common resources, forests, oceans, land and water. The World Bank is ready to continue working together with countries and partners in MENA and globally in their effort to step up climate action in support of the sustainable development and poverty eradication agendas. We can contribute to this through our analytical work, financing and technical assistance. We have all learnt from the richness and diversity of events and perspectives and joined the many discussions on how to bring forward actions from this week into COP28 and beyond on this very important agenda. The results of this week are particularly important as they feed into the global stocktake process. The global stocktake will further raise awareness that the world is way off course to stay below 1.5 degrees of warming. But importantly, it will also encapsulate regionally relevant priorities that are needed to get back on track and achieve the objectives of the Paris Agreement. The leadership, engagement, technical skill and dedication that has been demonstrated this week, the audience, the people on stage, and all of the supporters, shows that momentum is building. The task that we have is to take that momentum and snowball it into the societal transformation at the scale and the pace that is needed. I will end by thanking you for the many interactions we've had with you all over the course of the week, and by asking you to continue to find every opportunity to do your part to protect the only livable planet that we have. We need every one of you to work together to magnify the momentum that has been so palpable this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sampson, for your remarks. And thank you to all our partners, including our regional partners, for the ongoing collaboration we have. Before I hand over to the host, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our host personally and everyone who has made this year's MENA Climate Week possible. What a week it has been. I would like first to reiterate our deep appreciation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for co-organizing MENA Climate Week. The venue is incredible. The service has been exceptional, and the support staff has been outstanding. You put all the pieces in place to facilitate productive discussions. Thank you. I must extend a warm thank you to His Royal Highness Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud, Minister of Energy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and thank him for his opening this meeting on Sunday and joining us throughout the week. His participation, along with ministers from so many countries, elevated this event in the global discourse and showed the world the ambition and leadership on climate change here in the MENA region. I want to take this opportunity as well to thank our global partners once again, the World Bank, the UN Environment Program, and the UN Development Program, and our partners in the region, the Islamic Development Bank, the International Renewable Energy Agency, the UN Economic Social Commission for Western Asia, and the League of Arab States. We appreciate greatly the ongoing cooperation with these organizations to make events like this possible. I also must recognize all the participants, stakeholders, and youth who joined us here in Riyadh. In every session I attended, the perspectives were insightful and discussions were focused on building the future for the MENA region and the world. Finally, I must acknowledge that the efforts of all the teams that have worked so hard to make this Climate Week happen, from our Saudi partners and the UN climate change team who worked well together in preparing since the beginning, to the teams from our global and regional partners who contributed to the thematic tracks and other sessions, to the many, many organizations who organized side events and action hub sessions, who showcased the solutions, and to the staff on hand here with us this week to direct the participants to the right rooms and ensure we were all quite well fed. The success of MENA Climate Week 2023 is all of our successes. Ladies and gentlemen, we know what needs to be done to meet the climate change challenge, and we know we must work together. This Climate Week has shown that this is possible, with regional collaboration emerging as a powerful driver of global progress. MENA Climate Week has laid down a solid foundation that we all can build on. The potential of regional collaboration to accelerate climate action has been underscored in conversations I have had throughout the week with business leaders, with academics, NGOs, UN agencies, and again, with the youth. So many people and organizations want to work together on climate change. This week has opened the opportunities for collaboration. It is now up to all of us to continue these discussions going forward and to continue to collaborate, because we know that climate action can only move forward as a whole of society approach. MENACW Week is also more than just a place for discussion. It is a platform to forge partnerships and advance initiatives that shape the path forward. The Saudi Green Initiative launched this week is an excellent example of innovation and leadership that can turn commitment into concrete action. Leadership is especially important right now. At this year's COP28 in the UAE, we will conclude the first global stocktake. We know we need to get on track to achieve goals of the Paris Agreement and keep the 1.5-degree trajectory in reach. MENACW Week has shown what is possible with collaboration, with innovation, and with leadership like we have here in Saudi Arabia. We can get on track to deliver the goals of the Paris Agreement. We must work together to make it happen, and from what I have seen here in MENACW Week, I believe we will. Thank you. And now I would like to invite Mr. Khalid Al-Mukhaid, Senior Sustainability Advisor to His Royal Highness, the Minister of Energy and Chief Climate Change Negotiator of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to officially close the MENACW Week 2023.
Thank you, James. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and colleagues and friends. On behalf of His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, who is not able to be with us today, allow me to thank you all for joining us in this event in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to engage and discuss this year's pivotal MENA Climate Week. We have had the pleasure of hosting this week as we progress from one region COP to another regional COP, which is COP 27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, to COP 28 in Dubai. We extend our thanks to our partners who have helped us make this an event to remember. Simon Steele and his team at the UNFCCC, as well as our global and regional partners and the stakeholders who have helped us in organizing this event. Our gratitude extends to everyone who contributed their thoughts, ideas, as moderators, panelists, or guests, sharing their views and even just asking questions. Over the past week, we have seen all types of stakeholders, not just for the MENA region, but from all over the world, discuss and engage on the region's challenge, as well as opportunities and initiatives. This region is a pivotal player in advancing climate action in a balanced, just, and equitable manner. We are, as a region, already undertaking a multidimensional transformation to address this global challenge. A small example of this is the story that we have shared with you, the story of Saudi Arabia and its Vision 2030. A shared vision that outlined a blueprint to achieving a more sustainable future, charting our path to net zero by 2060, or even nearer than that if the technology are available and ready to take us to that point. We have told you about our efforts to advance at-scale emission reduction, abatement as well as removal, and channel innovation and investment across all technologies and solutions needed by pioneering the circular carbon economy, launching the Saudi Green Initiative, and extending beyond the Middle East Green Initiative. We are also part of various other multilateral initiatives supporting actions and implementation in our beloved MENA region. We hope that you have kept an open mind and engaged into transformative discussions to better understand the region, its countries, and their different perspectives and circumstances. We trust that you have not only seen, but also felt our ambition, our tremendous efforts to implementation and our continued commitment to hold ourselves accountable. If you take nothing else from this week, allow me to kindly request and passionately hope that you will at least take forward these 5 messages. Number 1, the science is clear as we read it from the perspective of this region. We need accelerated emission reduction, abatement, and removal starting in this critical decade and beyond. The science clearly illustrated that hydrocarbons will remain in the energy mix for decades to come in all pathways consistent with the Paris Agreement temperature goals. And this is what has been said in the IPCC latest report. So while at-scale emission reductions remain as a strategic and overarching priority, if we are serious about pursuing efforts to limit warming to 1.5 in reality and not as an empty promise, we need to also prioritize scale-up abatement and removal technologies. Number 2, inclusion must serve as a guiding principle for all decisions coming out of COP28. This region's opportunities for climate action, for sustainable development, and for effective economic diversification, all of these opportunities, they depend on inclusion. The inclusion of industries, perspectives, and any and all solutions that bring us closer to our collective mission, the mission that we can say to confront the challenges of climate change by addressing emissions head-on. To make a resounding impact at COP28, we must course correct towards inclusion. Which leads me to my third point in the same spirit of inclusion. A transition must be just and equitable. The current energy transition narrative is not taking into account the priorities of the MENA region, let alone the global south. We must acknowledge that one-size-fits-all approach will not work, and that the transitions, plural transitions with an S, will have to be multidimensional, multi-speed, and adequately taking into account the differing circumstances of each region and country. This needs to extend to our work on the global stocktake at COP28. The outcome of the GST shall preserve the principle of equity and CBDR-RC, ensuring that transition support sustainable development and poverty eradication for all. And that's the major point of the Paris Agreement. Number 4, mitigation and adaptation go hand in hand with each other. It's important to note that the existing link between adaptation and mitigation action, both in an inclusive and dynamic manner, and in a well-balanced track towards achieving global climate goals. We cannot progress mitigation without seriously progressing adaptation. But we know that efforts to mitigate are done in the pursuit of the temperature goals of the Paris Agreement. While there is no clear global goal in place when it comes to adaptation efforts, in nature, adaptation must happen before there is a change in environment. There is no such thing as adapting after the fact. Similarly, we must set a global goal on adaptation that protects against worst-case scenario to ensure the survival of those who are vulnerable. Therefore, as we accelerate our mitigation efforts to hold the global temperature to well below 2 and limit it increasingly to 1.5, we must also enhance adaptation action in the face of its impacts and beyond. Loss and damage starts whereafter adaptation ends. Nothing that the current adaptation level are way below what is needed to apart to a 1.5 degree world, let alone 2 degrees world. The fifth point that I would like us to take out of this, finance and investment. Finance is the key enabler for Paris Agreement to successfully achieve its goals. As the region is on the front lines of climate change and lies at the center of the global energy sector, more investments are needed to ensure low greenhouse gas and climate resilient development. Our current finance systems are burdensome to developing countries, and their ability to access the finance that would allow them to achieve their NDCs and their national adaptation and mitigation action plans as very limited. Despite the region's commitment to addressing emissions from all sources, some private sector approaches utilized by actors in the wider financial system adopt a restrictive approach to climate finance. The regimes are too narrow, they must adjust. Dear colleagues and friends, we entrust you to carry these 5 messages to COP28 to ensure the voice of this region is heard loud and clear, sending us a strong signal to the world, a signal of unity, true ambition, and inclusion as we aspire to leave no one behind. With that, dear friends, let me call this meeting of the Climate Week in Saudi Arabia and Riyadh to be adjourned. And thank you very much for being with us.